Hey everybody, and welcome to Unit 2, the PTO. What I mean by PTO, this is going to be the periodic table of elements. In this unit, we're going to dissect and break down the trends and how to analyze the periodic table of elements. So let's just go ahead and dive right in, take a look at our objectives. Today, we're going to classify the components of a periodic table. We're going to identify representative elements as A groups. And we're going to identify alkali metals, alkaline earth metals, and noble gases based on their location. So, before we get started, let's just review some basic vocabulary. When you take a look at these elements in the periodic table, all that means is it's the building block of matter. We can't break matter down anymore by physical or chemical means. This is going to be that start material of matter. Now, we're going to take a look at how the periodic table is arranged, and there are some special vocabulary we must understand in order to do well in this unit. So, periods are going to run from right to left. These are going to be the rows, and there are going to be 7 periods in the periodic table. One way to remember this is that sentences end in a period, and you read a sentence from left to right in the English language. So periods are going to be that horizontal order. Now, going from top to bottom, this is going to be our groups. Groups top to bottom, also known as columns, and they're going to be numbered 1 through 18. A synonym for groups is also known as families, and they can be grouped between A and B. If it is grouped A, then that is our main group or representative elements. And if it's in the B group, this just means this is the block of the periodic table that is the transition elements. So for example, here, from 3 to 12, these groups are going to be our transition. It doesn't have B here, but you can take a look at where is A indicated. One thing to note here, the numbers in the A blocks, they're going to tell you how many electrons are in the outer shell. These electrons are going to determine whether or not these elements are going to be able to react quickly or if they don't react at all. So for example, hydrogen here has 1 electron on its outside shell. Beryllium here has 2. And all the members of the family or group will have the same number of electrons on the outside shell. We're going to be doing a lot with electrons this unit, so let's just pay attention to this part. It's not in your notes, but just knowing that the 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, these numbers correlate to the amount of electrons on the outside shell. And so when we group elements, they're actually going to be grouped based on increasing atomic number. You already know that the atomic number is the same as the number of protons, so they're going to be arranged due to increasing atomic number. And what we're going to notice is that there are some similar properties and characteristics with elements of the same group. So let's just dive right in. We're going to take a look at how are these elements composed. So they have 3 types. So the first type is the elements can be metals. Metals, their characteristic are they're good conductors of heat and electricity. They have high luster, which means they shine. And they're also ductile and malleable, meaning that if we melt it and twist it and pull it, we can change the shape. And some examples of metals in our daily lives are copper and gold. I think we know pretty much metals. So let's move right into nonmetals. All nonmetals these are the characteristics. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They're dull and brittle, and the examples are oxygen, carbon, phosphorus, and we're actually going to dissect where they are on the periodic table. Now, Metalloids. Metalloids are neither metals or nor are they nonmetals. They're kind of in between, and they're going to be on the staircase of the periodic table. What do I mean by staircase? You're about to find out. So metalloids generally are similar to both metals and nonmetals. They're in that medium center. They're medium conductors of electricity, so they're also known as semiconductors. We use a lot of metalloids in our technology, and we use a lot of silicon and aluminum, for example, in our daily lives. The other way that we're going to be able to group elements is by their state of matter. Just to review, there are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. So when we take a look at the periodic table, at room temperature, all that is green here are going to be solids. Now the blue, there are only two highlighted here that are blue, bromine, and mercury, that are actually liquids at room temperature. And then the yellows here are our gases. So can't really see these gases as much. Now, what you're going to need is some colored pencils, and also some markers maybe. We are going to organize the periodic table based on their characteristics. The outlines, you're going to need a blue and a red to indicate the liquids and gases, and the shading, you're going to need orange, green, and yellow to indicate the nonmetals, metals, and metalloids. So, go ahead and start with the liquids. Find Hg and Br for the liquids. Find the gases and outline these as red. All the others should be blank because they are solid. Go ahead and pause it. Now, our metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. The metalloids, let's start with the staircase right here. Draw the staircase, indicate these metals. Now would be a good time to go ahead and pause and go ahead and color your periodic table based on this shading. So I want you guys to notice here that hydrogen, even though it's on the left side right here, it's a gas, even though it's here with the metals. And let's dive into the last type of grouping right here. We can actually indicate, or we can group elements based on their families. So some of these elements, because they act the same way based on the number of electrons on their outside shell, they are part of the same family because they have the same properties and act the same way. So again, families are sorted because they have similar chemical properties. What you can see is that the least reactive, meaning that they don't react with other elements, are going to be on the far right side. The farthest is group 18. And the most reactive are going to be on the far left. We're going to take a look at some famous families, starting with group 1 right here on the very left side. These are going to be known as our alkali metals. The elements are from lithium to francium. Notice again that hydrogen is not one of the alkali metals, it is a gas. So alkali just means that it reacts with water to form hydroxide ions, which creates bases, basic solutions like bleach, ammonia, for example. So these metals are very, very, very reactive because they can donate their electron easily. They don't want to keep that one electron on their outside shell, so they give it up easily, meaning they can react. Now, these metals are often soft silver in color and have low boiling and melting points, and they're also malleable and sometimes soft and can cut with a knife. Now, group 2, they have 2 electrons in their outside shell. They're a little bit more metallic in character than group 1, and then the elements are going to be beryllium, magnesium, all the way to radium. Again, they have 2 electrons in their outside shell. They can lose it easily, so they are the second most reactive group on the periodic table. The biggest chunk of the periodic table are what we call our transition metals. These are the periods that, or the groups that are going to be considered B groups. And they can form alloys easily. Metals, think about metals, it's hard to melt them, so it's going to take a high amount of heat to melt. And with metals, they have a lot of valence electrons on their outside shell. So that's just one of the properties of metals. And then we skip all the way to the 17th group right here, halogens. Now, halogens, they have 7 electrons in their outer shell. To be stable, you need 8, so they really, really, really want an electron from another element or another atom. So they can combine with a lot of other elements because they want to be stable with that 8 electron rule. So in this case, they're going to be very, very reactive. In fact, fluorine, which is right here, is going to be the most reactive and combines with many, many different elements. The trend to notice is that the reactivity is going to decrease as you go down the family. And last but not least, our last family that we're going to take a look at is our noble gases. Again, the one at the very right, they are the least reactive because they are really, really stable. If you're stable, you don't want to react. Because of the stability, they have full electron shells. And so noble gases are what we call inert, which means they rarely, rarely combine with other elements. They're just kind of doing their own thing because they're already so stable. And last but not least, you're going to do some more coloring on your periodic table. Go ahead and color these based on their families and go ahead and label what their names are on your periodic table. You can pause and make sure to label these correctly. And once you're done, I know it's a lot of information. We're going to analyze now the periodic table based on identifying the different elements, identifying the different families, the different groups, and now really just digging more into the chemistry of it all. Again, like and subscribe to Mr. Monty's channel. Thank you guys for watching.